So the Daimler V8 has these nuts that secure the rocker covers onto the cylinder heads, and they're a bit of a pain in the sense that they're aluminium and they're quite easy to damage if you try and use a pipe wrench or something to get them off. So there are various tools available. I actually bought this one some years ago now. I forget where I got it from actually, but it's basically Perspex. It was machined from Perspex, and that works very well. If you take the, or at least I say it works very well. Take the plug extension tube out. So this Perspex one fits onto the nut, and indeed you can quite easily get that off. The only thing is it broke. The Perspex broke here and here, me manhandling it. So I put on this stainless steel backing and I put all these screws around and basically sort of glued it back together and attached it to this backing plate. And again, that's pretty solid now. So I'm okay. But it just occurred to me recently, I had an hour free. I've designed a 3D printed version. So here's the 3D printed one. It's just PLA, a cheap 3D printing sort of home user material, which does seem to be very robust, in certainly tolerant with oil and petrol. Two-stroke stuffing channel. He uses PLA to make stuffers for two-stroke engines, which are running at 18,000 RPM, whatever. Obviously, a pretty aggressive environment, and the PLA survives fine. I've also had PLA on the air filters here, the breathers for the crankcase, and again, those have survived the heat and the oil contamination and so on, and they're PLA, so it seems to be fine. But obviously, I'm a bit concerned about the strength. That's the main issue, I guess. But this does fit on. I put a big hex on the back. The background's that the bigger the better in terms of the strength. And this needs a wrench such as this, Nipex pliers wrench. But I think that'll do it. So yeah, I put this design on Thingiverse. It's easy enough to adjust the size of the hex if you want to use a smaller hex to use a socket set, for example. You could do that. I kept this big on the grounds of strength, basically, that I chose to use an adjustable spanner rather than a socket set. You could actually put a 1/2 inch square in here and just use a socket set straight into the ratchet handle, for example, straight into the PLA, but I don't think this will be strong enough for that. So yeah, it's easy enough to change the model, and although there's more and more of these available on the market, different types, I would suggest if you just want a cheap and cheerful one, then this seems to work. This is printed in two-tone filament, by the way. That's why it looks a funny colour, maybe. And it's blue-red, half blue, half red filament, which comes out with this quite interesting finish. But I just used that because it's something I had available. I created the design in OpenSCAD, so it's readily available if anybody wants to modify it. So this is obviously the part, and the underside has got the 12-pointed recess to pick up the rocker cover nuts. So it's easy enough. It's all parameter driven, so you can change different aspects to change this hex, for example, make it a different size to suit a socket, or even put a square in, so 1/2 inch square in. If you had a material that was strong enough to take that sort of load, you could put a 1/2 inch square in and use just a standard ratchet handle, which is what some of the other professionally produced designs do. Anyway, so that model will be on Thingiverse as well, so if anybody wants to make up one of these for themselves, then feel free. When it comes to printing this, I'd recommend using a pretty serious infill. I mean, The default seems to be 30% in most cases, but for this I'd make it even 100% to try and make it as strong as possible and keep this nut in particular strong enough